Hi, welcome back to another episode of Culturing Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's episode, we're going to do some more work on the Camber Ladies Roadster. One of the things I want to do is final fit the hood. We got it really close last week. We got everything louvered, so I'm happy with that. I'm going to have to take and file off some of the sharp edges here. But what we want to ultimately do is move the hood and the grill shell forward to getting epoxy primer and working towards getting it painted over the next 2 or 3 weeks. The one last thing I need to do, I've got to drill the final hole down here at the bottom of the grill into the radiator bracket. Another thing I have to do is I've got to go out and get another belt for the alternator here. I just need like another 1/2 inch clearance to bring the alternator in away from the hood sides. I've got the room to move it in. I just need a slightly shorter belt. And there's a bunch of other little things we want to work on too. Hopefully I can start getting the wood made for the seats and then pass that on to the camera lady. And then of course over on the 5-window coupe, we want to move that forward. I think we're going to get the chassis in this week. If we do, we'll show you it coming in and we'll get the body on the chassis. My friend is working quite a bit on getting the chassis work done. We'll continue to do some of the other stuff on the coupe to get it to the point where he's going to take the body and the chassis back home. So anyways, follow along. We'll be working on these two 32 Ford projects. So today we're back out working on the Camber Ladies Roadster, working off on a whole bunch of little small things that still have to be done. As I mentioned either in last episode or the beginning of this one of the things I want to do is start laying out what we're going to do for a seat. What we did with this car is I used the original setup as to the way the 32 Roadsters were made. I have the metal runner across the bottom, the metal seat support that we made for this, so that I'm going to put a seat in basically the traditional way, not put like one of the minivan seats into it, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to go try and do this the way that they originally did it. So the first step, we think, we're going to make a plywood base here, the 3/4 inch plywood. We're going to go to the fabric store and get some webbing to go across the holes here, and then go buy some high density foam to start making the base. Now, I'm not sure how far we're going to get on this episode with it, but I just want to show you the thought process for the seat and where we're going with it. And if I get any feedback, positive or negative, from anybody out there, I'm going to consider it before I go any further. But from what I think we're going to do the wooden base with some webbing across to it with probably 3 or 4 inch high density foam for the base. Once we get that kind of sorted out, then we'll start working on the back piece. As far as the hood goes, I've played around a little bit more with the grill shell to kind of get the right alignment. I think that we're good. I'm going to take the hood back off here. We're going to clean it up and get it ready for epoxy primer, so that we can move forward with the finishing process. As you can see on the side of the grill there, one thing that I was messing with was we've got to make a hole there for the headlight grommet, like I guess the wires that go through the conduit. They're going to go through a hole in the side of the grill, and that's approximately where I think I've got to put it. So what we did in a previous episode, we took a 32 Ford headlight bar right there, and we chopped the ends off of it, and then I went out and I bought the V8 emblem here, which looks as though I'm going to have to re-drill the hole and move it forward, but that's what we're using for a headlight bar. So the holes in the side of the grill, we've got to put those in before I epoxy prime it, make sure I got the right size grommet and all that stuff, because I really don't want to do it when I paint it. So anyway, that's where we are today. That's what we're going to keep on working on, and I will show you more as we go. So today, back out working on a Camber Ladies car, what I decided to do was to focus on prepping the front sheet metal, the grill shell, the hood, and everything else. There's the hood sides, the hood top over there, and the grill shell. We also have to prime and paint the underneath of the cowl vent, or paint the underneath the cowl vent during the process. A couple things you're not going to be able to see here, but had to make a decision on. was whether to run the electric fan on all the time or hook up the temperature control unit. It came with the kit. On the Model A, we just run the fan nonstop, but we also have a 410 stroker motor. She's running pretty hot all the time. Pretty much the fan's running all the time. Just that's the way it's run for 10 years. On the 32 pickup, we got a 351 Cleveland into it, so I do have it's not a high performance engine. It's probably 300 plus horsepower. But it's not running high compression or nothing like that. So we just have a temperature control unit on that, so the electric fan kicks on and off whenever it needed. When we're driving on the highway, it's not on. It's only when you actually stop and sit and idle for a while that it actually kicks in. We kind of anticipate with the Roadster it's going to be the same thing. So ultimately decided to put it in. Where to run it, where to put it, that's always the debate. So what I did, I mounted the little relay down here alongside the inside of the frame, ran the power off of the main power on the back of the alternator, and then my lines go up here to the front. Usually the fans can run forward or reverse, so I'm never sure which is ground and which is not ground. Because the Chinese ones, blue could be ground, black could be ground. So I did some quick disconnect lines there so that I can reverse the polarity of it once we get everything up and running. The other thing I needed to do was a small little thing was run a horn. I typically just go to Napa or CarQuest and buy an El Cheapo horn. I don't like the Oga one. I don't know if you can see it in there, but I just mounted the horn underneath the floor. This particular one doesn't ground off of the housing, so you've got to run a separate ground wire. So not a big deal. Had to run the wire for it, had to run the ground for it, but it's in there, it's done. One more thing out of the way. Bunch of little things still left to do. Made a list, but I'm gonna pick away at most of that stuff. But ultimately what I'm gonna focus on now is, like I said, I'm gonna get the grill and the hood and everything over to the other garage, start prepping the metal to get it ready for epoxy primer. We also have the 35 Ford pickup bed over there. We've got to put a coat of epoxy primer on that at the same time. So I'm really hoping to get kind of all this stuff going right now. Not that exciting, but it's got to get done. It leads up to final paint. So in addition to the hood and the grill cell, we also have these headlight buckets. We bought them from Speedway. They're United Pacific reproductions. There is a name for them, but they're really cool hot rod style headlights with the indicators on the top and the headlight in the center. We typically will replace the incandescent bulbs with an LED bulb. It's just less draw on the light switch. I've seen, where the systems can draw just a little bit too much off the light switch. I burnt one light switch up already. So the LEDs are brighter, they're nicer, and less draw on the system. That's the only modification we do to them. But right now what I'm doing is disassembling the whole assembly here to get down to the bucket and to the bracket on the top for the indicator light. We're going to sand all that down with 320-400, get that ready to also put a coat of epoxy primer onto it. But fortunately it comes apart really easily. Everything unscrews, including the stainless steel support here on the bottom. There's just a couple studs with little nuts on the end of them. Just kind of take it all apart, put it inside the bag here, and then that's one more thing we got to get ready to epoxy prime and ultimately paint red here. When we were louvering the hood last weekend, one thing I mentioned about when we put the louvers in, we didn't want to go into the curved area so much. I moved my louvers up as high as I could with this particular spacing. Now, we can actually put probably 3 rows of louvers here, but we would probably need an inch spacing from the center, probably inch or inch and a quarter spacing here, and then that would have allowed for another set of louvers inside of the curve. Now, I was kind of pushing the limits here on this one louver, so I actually caught the edge. I had a little ever so slight under the right light, little tiny crease right there. Now, I didn't want to put any body work into it. So the first thing I thought was, oh, let's go grab the dolly and the hammer and then kind of pound it out. Now here's the thing, if you really want to metal finish something, you have to have super clean dollies, and if you don't, then go polish the top of your dolly, polish the head of your hammer if you're going to do some finished metal work, because whatever was in the face of that hammer and dolly, when you whack it on this metal, it's going to be there. If you have a dent, a raised spot, you're going to impart the same thing onto it. So if you want to do some metal finishing, polish your dolly, polish your hammer, do it, and then take a file when you're done and run the file over the edge. If you're still not sure, shoot a little die chem onto it or some soot or something, and then when you file it, then you're going to see that you're filing the area completely flat, because it's going to show when you go to paint it. I went over the hood here, looking on all the different light, looking for any high or low spots. Might actually be a little bit more there, so I'm going to file in behind there just in case to see if I've got a high spot, because what'll happen, the file will ride on the high spot. I think I got that one. We don't have it. I ran the file over this edge here too, because I thought maybe I had caught it, but I don't think so. I think we're good. So anyways, that's just a tip. If you're going to metal finish, whatever's on your dolly or a hammer, when you whack the metal, it's going to put it there. You might knock everything out, but you're going to leave a dented surface or a pick or something into it. So that's just a, yeah, whatever quality you want on the metal, you got to hit it with the same quality on your hammers and dolly. Well, this video is not going to be that long this week, just because some of the stuff I'm doing is just cleaning and sanding and all that kind of stuff that takes up a lot of time, but it's not that exciting to watch. There's other people out there, you can watch them for a couple hours unmasking products, but I'm not going to do that to you. What we've got here now, I have basically the 35 pickup bed. I've got it all sanded, and I've got to do it a final wipe down. I've got the headlights for the 32 Roadster. What I want to do, they were black, they came black, but we're going to paint them orange ultimately, so I've sanded those down with 320 and 400. I'm going to put a coat of epoxy primer on those. These are the hinges for the truck bed. I've got the grill shell all cleaned up now. There was a few things we had to do to the grill shell. Sorry about that. And this was a seconds grill shell we bought from Brookville. It was a pretty good one. Some of the holes for the grommet that goes around the outside of here, forget what it's called, but the lacing, sorry. The lacing goes along here and hooks in these holes. So these holes were not in the right place. We had to drill those and clean those up. And then the two holes at the top here, they made a big mess. There was probably 5/8 holes there. We welded those up and re-drilled those in the right place for the hood hinge. The louvered hoods was just a matter of, like I showed you, dollying out a couple spots and then basically cleaning everything and sanding it and making sure the surface was prepped. For the hood sides, they were pristine basically. There's a couple fingerprints from rust because they've been sitting around for a while. We cleaned those up. The rubbers were installed onto them, so we're just going to put a little bit of tape onto it. But ultimately the plan here is tomorrow to pull the curtains down. I'm going to go get some epoxy hardener in the morning because I'm short of that. And then hopefully tomorrow night I will put 2 to 3 coats of epoxy primer on all of this stuff and move the projects forward some. Well, today I decided I would want to try and start the Y block up. I had a little bit of fun with the numbering the wires, but ultimately once I got the wiring in the right order, it did fire up, it did run. Not going to show it because I don't have enough coolant into it at the moment. We warmed it up. A few things came up, a few problems, one of which was I think that the water pump is leaking. We've got some fluid down on the floor there. It looks as though even though it's not full up all the way, that the seal might be going in the water pump. So right now what I've done, I've ordered a new water pump from Rock Auto, just because I don't really want to put this thing together and have it leak. So I'm going to go with the new one. The other thing that happened, we had these headers powder coated. They were stainless steel headers. Probably 2 minutes after it fired up, once the heat get to them, all of a sudden the ceramic coating starts flaking off and bubbling off, and there's all kinds like micro powder from where it blew off, which doesn't make sense. I contacted the company that powder coated them. They were totally surprised and said, bring them on over, we'll sandblast them and redo them again, because it's not supposed to do it, but a little bit of a setback. The other thing I found was we bought this engine as a refreshed engine from somebody. There's an original road draft tube or hole here at the bottom of the Y block. Someone's made a makeshift kind of a plug for it. Right now, it was leaking a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take that out, and I'm going to make a new plate for it, get a gasket, some RTV silicone, and we'll plug that off. The other thing happened was that the tack doesn't work. I've checked that the wiring is good to it. I have had these tacks go bad when we built the Model A. The tack just never worked. I ultimately got a new one, and it's been working ever since. It's been running for the past 11 years. Didn't have that problem with the 32 or other ones, but right now, I mean, I'm going to try and troubleshoot it some more. Not a whole lot to it. There's a wire that goes from the tack to the negative side of the coil. Actually, yeah, this one here to the negative side of the coil. I'll check continuity on that to make sure that it's good. I've done a check on the coil. The coil checks out. There's a switch on the back of the tachometer 4, 6, and 8. It looks like it's set on 8. I will double check that. And if at the end of the day just doesn't work, we'll have to get another one for it. But anyway, this is what happens when you're building a hot rod. You just keep inching forward and fix the things that don't go right. That's the way it works. But anyway, engine runs. We've got 40 plus PSI of oil pressure on it. Happy about that. Doesn't smoke. Bunch of positives, but gotta fix up some of these little negatives too. So here is our MacGyvered up paint booth. This is what we do when we go to paint stuff. We drop down these plastic curtains. They're probably due for a change because they've got a lot of dust sticking to them, but nevertheless, they still do the trick. It'd be really nice to have our own dedicated paint booth, but we're not really painters. We just, in some cases, paint our own stuff. We typically don't paint anything for anybody else in the shop. It'll go out. So, but we are, like I said, we've got everything done here right now. We were asked to epoxy prime the 35 pickup bed here that we built before. That hadn't been the plan. And I was asked to do a skim coat on the outside and at the top for the body fill. That's what the owner's asking me to do. And then this will actually go out and get painted with the cab at the shop that they're working on. So got that done. And then the big thing for us was that we wanted to get the grill shell and the hood and everything in epoxy primer for the Camera Ladies Roadster. The headlight buckets, we also wanted to change the color from black. We want to get them painted red. Everything went off without a hitch. I only saw one tiny little run in the tailgate, which I'll be able to get out, but what it looks like, I've got super, super nice coverage. No orange peel on the epoxy primer. You can sand out the orange peel, but it's just less work if you don't have it. So really happy with the way the grill shells turned out, the hood sides. And then of course on this episode we got the Camera Ladies Roadster running. Few hiccups, but that's par for the course when you're building these things. So a couple things we just didn't expect, but we're going to deal with them. But the good thing is the engine is running. I think we got 45 to 50 psi oil pressure at idle, so it's a good motor. We had no reason to think that it wasn't. We did inspections on it previously, but really we didn't know the motor. So besides now putting a water pump onto it, probably going to change the carb too, plug up the old vent on the side of it. I mentioned the water pump leaking, I think. Yeah, I did. So, oh, and the exhaust headers with the coating coming off. I spoke to the folks that did that. They said that's completely not acceptable. That should never have happened. Send them over right away. We'll redo them. So that's great. So anyway, we'll deal with that stuff. But anyways, that's another week at Coldstream Rod Shop. It's always something different every week. So anyway, come on back next week, see what we're up to. Everybody have a great week. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe. And that's it. Everybody take care.